Good afternoon, Owls fans, and welcome to Owls TV. This is John Nagel, your play-by-play broadcaster. We're here at the first round pool at the Lawrence North Wildcat Invite. Our Owls will be facing the Shamrocks of Westfield. Owls have beaten Franklin Central in 2 sets, and as well as Andrea in 2 sets to advance to the first round pool. We'll be starting here very, very shortly. Owls will be getting on the line, ready to greet the other team in the middle. Out there starting for the Owls will be Perry, Michael Ivy, Lauren Nixon, Sophia Maynor, Mia Morrison, Abby Kessler, and Rory Powers will have the libero jersey on today. Out there for the Shamrocks we have number 10, Johnsy, number 12, Wagglers, number 4, Mender, number 5, Owens, number 2, Caffey, and I can't see the other one over in the corner, number 6, Staniford. And Powers with the serve, and we get an ace to start out. The Owls leading 1-0. Powers to serve again, sends it across court. And again, another ace. Owls out to a quick and early 2-point lead. Powers once again. Powers gets it up. Maynor one-hands it over the net. Ivy with the block, and the Owls get the point, and they're up 3-0. Powers going back to serve again. Sends it down deep into the corner. And that one goes out of bounds, and the Owls go up 4-0. Powers at the service line once again. Serves it short this time. And diving forward, and gets the ace as it's knocked out of bounds. And with that, the Shamrocks are going to take a timeout, and we will be right back. Welcome back, Owls fans. Our Owls are up 5-0 over the Westfield Shamrocks. Rory Powers continuing the serve. Sends it across court again. Maynor there with the block. Sent over to the Shamrock side. Morrison with the dig. Perry. Maynor sends it between the block, and it's knocked out of bounds, and the point to the Owls, and they're up 6-0. Tipped back by the Shamrocks. Would be a free ball sent over. Morrison to Perry. Nixon comes in for the attack. Tipped over it. Perry's there. Quick set from Nixon to Ivy. Free ball sent over. Owls setting it up. The back set to Ivy. At the block. Powers to Perry. Maynard into the block. And bounced off a couple Owls and rolls out of bounds. And that point will go to the Shamrocks. Owls leading 6-1. Wigglers back to serve. Morrison receives it. Ivy. Oh, wow. She put it down inside the 10-foot line with some authority. And the Owls now lead 7-1. That'll send Lauren Nixon back to the service line for the Owls. Just clears the net. Cross court and a big swing from number 2, McAfee. And that'll be the second point for the Wildcats. Owls are up by 5 points, leading 7-2. McAfee going back to serve. Morrison. Ooh, Perry quickly gets it up and pushed over the top by Johnsey. Owls continue to lead. Morrison digs it up. Perry runs it down. Back row attack from Nixon. Cross. And that trails out of bounds. And that point goes to Westfield. Owls continuing to lead by 4. Looking for a side out. They were up 6-1. Ivy. That one goes over to the block. Middle attack. Nixon gets it up and sends it out over to the bench. And Westfield has ran off 4 straight points. Owls continuing to lead by 2. Into the net, and it'll be an easy point for the Owls as they're going to rotate. And Katie Scott's going to enter the lineup for the Owls. She'll go back to the service line. She sends it to the middle of the court. Back row attack, and that lands in the far corner. And Westfield gets a point. Owls leading 8-6. Mender back to serve. Morrison. Perry sends it right back into the block. Nixon's there with the cover. This time sends over to Ivy, and she sends it deep. And net violation on Westfield gives the Owls a point. Kessler comes into the front row. Powers rotates out, and Ivy goes to the service line. Cross court into the net, and the Owls get the point. Now leading 10-6. Ivy once again sends it down the line. Outside attack, and that's shot down with some authority by number 3, Daphne. Stanford back to serve. Morrison reaches back to get that one. Daphne with the swing. Powers. Perry. Nixon, and she gets the kill. Coming off the right side and the back. Owls now lead 11-7. Mara Perry going back to serve for the Owls. Delivers it deep into the Westfield. Battle at the net. Comes over on the outside. Nixon lines up again for another swing. Shamrocks strictly dump it over. Morrison. This is going to be bumped up, and Westfield can't run it down. And the Owls go up by 5, leading 12-7. Powers going back to serve. Flips the net on the way over. Battle at the net, and Morrison and Kessler push it back onto the Shamrock side and take a 6-point lead, leading 13-7. Owls continuing to march on early in this first set in the first place pool. Gaffney, Powers with the big dig. Nixon from the right side. Kessler tips it over and gets the Perry back to serve as the Owls have doubled up the score, 14-7. Outside to Daphne. Powers again with the big dig. Perry quickly dumps it over the net. Daphne, oh no! Mender getting away of Daphne, miscommunication, and that gives a point to the Owls, now leading 15-7. Powers back, serve, this time thrown over by number 14, Sweet, and they get the point. Owls still leading by 7, 15-8. Gaffney back to serve for the Owls. That's a wicked jump serve that went right into the net and gives an easy point to the Owls. Morrison back to serve. Owls leading by 8. Oh. Service error on the Owls, and we're now serving them into the net on both sides. So it quickly goes back over to Westfield. Sweet back to serve for the Shamrocks. Morrison handles it. Nixon comes down the middle. There's a roll shot. Powers digs it. Maynard reaches back to get it, but it goes out of bounds. Sweet back to serve again. Kessler. And she gets the swing. Dug up by Shamrocks. Tipped over. Perry gets it up. Maynard somehow gets it over. There's a swing and bounces off the Owls onto the hardwood. And the Shamrocks have closed within 5 as the Owls lead 16-11. Sweet to back to serve again. Morrison, Perry, Nixon off the right side, into the block, and they get the point as the ball lands on the Shamrocks side of the court. Powers will go back to serve. And another ace for the freshman. Owls leading 18-11. Powers serving got him off to a 7-1 lead before the Shamrocks have come back. Short serve there. Tipped over, out of bounds. And that point goes to the Owls, and they're now lead 19-11. And the Shamrocks are going to call a timeout to just regroup, and we'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back, Owls fans. Powers to serve once again. And there's another point for the Owls, and that'll be the 20th point in the first set, and the Owls leading 20-11. Powers once again. Back row attack from Daphne. Perry runs it down. Maynard sends it to the back. And that somehow made it through about 3 of the Shamrock players without a touch. So that point will go to Westfield. Owls leading 20-12. Manor runs it down. Perry sends the free ball over. There's the slide. Perry digs it up. Morrison sends it up. Free ball over from the Owls. Morrison with a big dig. Nixon off the right side, and she scores the point, and the Owls go up by 9, 21-12. Nixon will go back to the service line. And the servicer gives the point to Westfield. Owls continuing to lead by 8, 21-13. McAfee back to serve. Morrison sends it to Perry. Maynard, and it falls into the back of the court, and the Owls get the 22nd point. Katie Scott enters the lineup. And she'll come in to serve. She sends it cross court. Daphne. And that's a lift called on the Owls. And the Owls continuing. Point goes to Westfield, but Owls continuing to lead by 8. 22-14. Morrison. Perry with a quick dump. Daphne off the block. Perry runs it down. Morrison sends it cross court. And that's tipped up out of bounds. And the Owls take the point, now leading 23-14. Kessler comes into for the front row for Powers. Daphne lines up, and she gets the kill with the big swing from the outside. Owls back to their 8-point lead, leading 23-15. Stanford back to serve. Kessler with the big swing through the block. Gets a point, and that'll bring up set point as the Owls lead 24-15. Perry back to serve. Sails over. Sweet. Scott has it. Perry. Nixon off the block. Quickly sent back over. Perry once hands it. Powers sends over the overpass. And Sweet can't handle the overpass. It goes into the net. And the Owls take the first set, 25-15, over the Westfield Shamrocks. And the teams will switch sides, and we'll be back shortly for the start of the second set. Welcome back, Owls fans, as we get ready to start the second set. Owls easily defeated Westfield 25-15 in the first set. Out there for the Owls will be Ivy, Perry, Maynard, Morrison, Nixon, and Powers with the barrel. Be Sweet, Montel, McAfee, Daphne, Wexler. Morrison handles the serve. Perry sets up Ivy. Nixon pushes over, and she gets the point, and the Owls go up 1-0. Nixon will go back to serve for the Owls. Early in the second set of the first round of the first place pool. And the overpass goes out of bounds, and the Owls get the point now, going up 2-0. And there's going to be an ace for the freshman as the Owls go up 3-0. Nixon sends it deep into Westfield territory. McAfee with the swing. Nixon, ooh! Ivy goes into the block. And that lands on the Owls side of the court, and that'll be the first point for Westfield. Owls holding a 3-1 lead. McAfee's back to serve. Morrison. Ivy, and that goes off of the block. And the Owls now lead 4-1. Scott's going to come in for the lineup for the Owls, and she'll go back to serve. Owls holding on to a 4-1 lead. Sends it deep into Sweet, and Scott traps the ball. And that'll be a point for Westfield. Scott to Perry. Morrison, ooh, dug up by Sweet. Daphne back there, rolls it over. Ivy with the big swing into the corner, and the Owls get the point. Now leading 5-2. Michael Ivy back to serve. Short serve. Westfield scrambling. Daphne. Ivy digs it up. Perry runs it down. Kessler swings it over. Ivy with the big diving dig. Nixon from the back row. And into the net. And the Shamrocks can't dig it out. And the Owls go up by 4. 6-2. Ivy once again. And she gets the ace. Owls have opened up a 5-point lead, 7-2 in this second set. Daphne into the block of Perry. And that lands on the Shamrock side of the net. And the Owls get the point. And they're up 8-2. And that rolled off the fingers of Morrison and Kessler and lands on the court, and that point's going to go to the Shamrocks. Owls leading 8-3. Staniford's back to serve. Kessler reaches back to get the swing. Daphne lines up. Powers with the big dig. Morrison with the swing. Daphne again rolls it over the top and finds a hole in the defense. Do have to give it to Powers today, having some big digs, facing those powerful swings from Daphne. Morrison, Perry, Nixon with the free ball. And Morrison there with the block. Send it back over to the Westfield side. And Daphne tries, but hits the wrong angle. It rolls down the net and on the Westfield side. Owls now leading 9-4. Mara Perry back to serve. Daphne lines up. This one goes out of bounds, and the Owls get the point. Now, and that'll be their 10th point as the second set. Owls leading 10-4. Perry once again sends it deep, and just a little too deep, and that rolls out of bounds. Gaffney will be back to serve for the Owls. Or, check that, the Shamrocks. She has a pretty wicked jump serve. Scott sends it forward, but goes under the net. Gaffney back again, Owls leading 10-6. And into the net. And that'll make an easy point for the Owls. Owls leading by 5, 11-6. Morrison goes back to serve. Manor returned to the front row. McAfee. And that landed right on the line, inbounds. Owls leading 11-7. Mender back to serve for the Shamrocks. Powers, Perry, Nixon. Quickly dumped by the setter, Wegglers. And she gets at the point. And the Shamrocks are within 3. Owls leading 11-8. Morrison, Perry runs it down. Nixon, and into the block of McAfee waiting. And that's going to land on the Owl side. And the Owls leading 11-9. Shamrocks have closed within 2. They're looking for a side out. Morrison. Perfect pass to Perry, and Kessler tries to go soft, and McAfee's right there waiting to push it right back over. And with that, the Owls are going to call a timeout as their lead has been decreased to 1. And we're back to the action as the Owls lead 11-10. Service from Westfield. Morrison. Nixon powers it off the right side. McAfee's there, and she sends it to the back of the court, and we're now tied. Tied at 11 points apiece. Morrison, Perry, Nixon down the middle, and that'll be the end of that run. And the Owls retake the lead, 12-11. Powers goes back to serve, and Ivy returns to the lineup. And there's a quick dump from Wegglers, and that'll tie us up at 12. Setter Wegglers will go back to serve. Morrison, Perry, Ivy, and that rolls off the block, but dug up. Sweet! And Ivy sitting there with the block, and the Owls retake the lead, 13-12. Nixon goes back to serve. And McAfee comes down the middle and gets a big swing and the kill. And we're now tied at 13. McAfee back to serve. Morrison sends it to the middle of the court. Nixon sends it forward. Free ball from Maynor. Sweet on the slide. Morrison's there. Perry with the big jump. And she finds the open spot on the court and gets the point. And the Owls go up 14-13. Perry's done a very good job of moving the ball around, finding the good hitters, knowing when to dump it over the net. Perry, Nixon with the out of system. Morrison. And that goes out of bounds. Called a touch. Officials are going to have a conference. And some discussion there, and we're decided they're going to replay the ball. Point goes. Actually, now they call it was a touch, and the point goes to Westfield. And we're tied at 14. Morrison, Perry, Ivy. Whoa! And give her the hammer because she nailed it to the court. Kessler returns to the front row. Ivy goes back to serve as the Owls have retaken the lead, 15-14. McAfee, or Daphne, and that rolls off the block. And it finds the middle of the court. And we're tied at 15. Owls are definitely in a dogfight here in this second set. Morrison, Perry. Morrison rolls it down the... Oh! Tried to roll it down the net, and it rolled on the Owl side. And the Shamrocks take the lead, 16-15. Sanford back to serve. Morrison sends it to Perry. Kessler, and that goes off the block. And lands on the Owl side of the court. Owls trailing 17-15. Sanford back to serve again. And that one goes out, and it'll be an easy point for the Owls. Trailing by 1. Perry goes back to serve. Daphne winds up, and Powers tries but can't dig it up, and that point goes to the Shamrocks. They now lead by 2, 18-16. Daphne to serve. Morrison, and with the overpass, Shamrock set it up. And that goes out of bounds, and the point to the Owls. And they're trailing by 1, 17-18. Morrison goes back to serve, and Maynor returns to the front row for the Owls. Morrison sends it deep into McAfee. And net violation on the Shamrocks, and that'll tie us up at 18 points apiece. Morrison back once again, back to serve. Nixon digs it up, but that goes out of bounds. And Shamrocks retake the lead, 19-18. Some confusion on the Shamrock side of the rotation. Mendler back to serve. Morrison digs it up. Powers is going to send it up. Manor sends it over. Oh, ball handling there on the Shamrocks gives the point to the Owls. Just too much spin on that ball. Owls now, or we're tied at 19 points apiece. Powers to serve. Sweet. Ivy gets it up, and that falls on the Owl side of the court. And the Shamrocks retake the lead, 20-19. Owls battling hard here in the second set after easily defeating Westfield in the first set. Morrison, Perry, Ivy, and she gets the kill. And we're now tied at 20 points. Owls just need a little run here to finish this off. Lauren Nixon back to serve. McAfee down the middle, Powers. Morrison. Maynard sends it over. McAfee, Morrison, Maynard, and oh! Into the net, and that point's going to go to the Shamrocks. Owls trailing 21-20. McAfee's going to go back to serve. Perry, Ivy, that goes off the block. It's going to be dug up by the Westfield. And right in the middle of the court. And Westfield goes up by 2, 22-20. McAfee back to serve once again for Westfield. Ivy into the block and landing on the outside of the court. And with that, Coach Dodge wants a timeout as the Owls trail by 3, 23-20. And we'll be right back to the action. And we're back to the action. Owls trailing by 3, 23-20. Morrison to Perry. Ivy on the slide. And that's going to be the point as it's going to knock almost into the upper deck. Owls trailing by 2, 23-21. Scott's going to come back in to serve, see if he gets the Owls back into the lead. Scott waiting for the ball. Serves it cross court. Daphne, and she gets the ace, and the Owls are only trailing by 1, 23-22. Katie Scott back to serve once again. And with that, Westfield's going to take a timeout, and we'll be back. Scott serve at the net. Morrison Battleson, there's a free ball. Ivy on the slide, and it's going to be dug up. Roll shot by Daphne. Scott to Perry, over to Morrison. And that slides out of bounds as she's trying to go down the line, and the Owls are trailing 24-22 as we be set point for the Shamrocks. Sweet back to serve. Morrison, Perry, Ivy, and she gets a kill, and the Owls are still alive, but trailing 23-24. Michael Ivy back to serve. Oh! And service error ends the second set as Westfield takes it 25-23. And we'll be going off to a third and final decisive set. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back, Owls fans, as we get ready for our third and decisive set here in the first round of the first place pool at the Lawrence North Wildcat Volleyball Invitational. Owls took the first one 25-15 and then fell in the second one 23-25. Out there for the Owls in the third set will be Nixon, Powers, Morrison, Maynard, Perry, and Ivy. Westfield will have first service. Wagglers back to serve. Morrison gets it up. Maynard sets it over to Ivy. And that goes just outside the line. And the Shamrocks score first. And that goes out, and we're going to be tied at 1 point apiece. Nixon will go back to serve for the Owls. And she gets the point, and the Owls go up 2-1. Nixon once again goes back to the service line. Sends it deep. McAfee, Nixon with the dig. Ivy gets under it and pushes it over. Sweet, and rolling off the fingers of the Owls, but out of bounds, and we're going to be tied at 2 points apiece. McAfee goes back to serve. Morrison, Perry, Ivy into the block, and Owls are crashing there but can't get to it. And the Shamrocks retake the lead 3-2. Morrison, oh, and that goes out of bounds. And the Shamrocks open up a 4-2 lead, and Coach Dodge doesn't want to get this set to go away too far and calls a timeout. Owls trailing 2-4. And we're back to the action. McAfee's going to go back to serve as Westfield leads 4-2 over Muncie Burris. Morrison, Perry, sends it over to Ivy. McAfee's going to dig it up. And it's going to be pushed over by the Owls. Maynard with the dig. Ivy with the quick swing off the block and gets the point. Owls trailing by 1, 3-4. Scott's going to come into the lineup to serve for the Owls. Gaffney rolled off the fingers. Ivy powers it through the block. Shamrocks covered. Gaffney, and that lands on the line. And they go back to a 2-point lead, 5-3. That'll send Sweet to the service line for Westfield. Morrison. Ivy, whoa! She threw it down there. You might want to check the floor for a dent. Owls leading. Or Owls trailing 4-5. Ivy will go back to serve. There's a free ball. Ivy's going to send it up to Perry. Send it over to Morrison. Sends it cross court. Gaffney Morrison, just out of the reach of Perry. And it'll be back to a 2-point lead for Westfield. They lead 6-4. Morrison, Perry, Kessler on the slide, and wow! A freshman with a big kill. Smoking it through the Westfield defenders. Perry goes back to serve. Owls trailing 5-6. Overpass. Morrison redirects it and gets the point, and the Owls are now tied at 6. Perry again, rolls it over the net, and she gets the ace, and the Owls have retaken the lead, 7-6 in this third. And Westfield's going to call a timeout and regroup. And we're back. Owls have retaken the lead, 7-6. Perry's back to serve. Daphne rolls off the block. Nixon, Kessler, and she gets a kill, and the Owls go up 8-6. Mara Perry back to serve once again. And Owls go up, but mistime it and come down with the ball. At that point, it's going to go over to Westfield. Owls is holding on to a 1-point lead, 8-7. Daphne is going to go back to serve. A high jump. And it goes out of bounds, and the Owls take the point. Now leading 9-7. Morrison goes back to serve. Maynard returns to the front row for Scott. Sends it all the way across court. McAfee. Battle at the net. Kessler. And a violation on the Owls. Coach Dodge is vigorously arguing. And the point still is going to go to Westfield. Owls leading by 1, 9-8. Morrison, Perry. Nixon, and she gets the kill. Sliding out of the middle, and the Owls go up and get the 10th point, leading by 2. Perry goes back, Powers goes back to serve. Sent across court. McAfee rolls it. Owls are there with the block. McAfee's going to try again. Ivy this time with the solo block. Ivy again with a block. This time McAfee spreads it through and gets the point. Owls truly battling there. Holding on to a 1-point lead, 10-9. Wagaloo back to serve. Morrison, Perry, over to Ivy, and she gets the kill, and the Owls are back up by 2, 11-9. Nixon will go back to serve. Perry, Powers, Maynard into the block. Maynard sends the free ball over. Oh, and it's just out of bounds. And Westfield gets a point, and they're back within one. McAfee's going to go back to serve. Morrison, Ivy, there's a block. Perry gets it up. Ivy sends it across court, and she gets the kill. Sending on a very sharp angle across court. Owls back to a 2-point lead, 12-10. Katie Scott comes in. Sends it deep into the Westfield. Daphne Powers gets it up. Morrison with the free ball. Sweet off the slide. Powers is there to cover it. Perry. Ivy tips it over. And Daphne sends it down the line and gets a point. And Westfield's back within one. Owls leading 12-11. Sweet goes back to serve. Morrison, Perry, Ivy, and there's a point, and the Owls are back to a 2-point lead, 13-11. Ivy's going to go back to serve. Check that. Oh, timeout for Westfield. And return to the action. Adamowitz enters the lineup for the Owls. She'll go back to serve for Ivy. Owls leading 13-11. Sends it deep into the Westfield territory. And that lands on the line, and Westfield's back within one. Stanifer back to serve for Westfield. Owls clinging to a 1-point lead, 13-12. Scott, Perry, sends it over to Morrison, and that goes out. And now we have a tie game at 13. Stanford back to serve once again. Morrison, Perry gets it up. Kessler backs up to get the swing. Daphne, and she gets the swing and the kill. Going between the Owls blocks. And Coach Dodge is going to take a timeout as the Owls are 1 point away from going down. Owls returning to the court, trailing 14-13. Stanford back to serve. Morrison, Perry runs it down. Back to Morrison, and that'll be it. And Westfield holds on and wins, defeating the Owls in the third set, 15-13. Owls will be facing Lawrence North in the next set.